corruption is one of the contributing factors as to why young African men and women are risking their life in the Mediterranean Sea in search of a greener pasture. Thank you.
Thank you, Prophet Kimori. And I was touched by one of your tenants of Innovation Center in Malawi. Right now, in the continent of Africa, many African countries are transforming the education system. Good example is Kenya, that is doing the CBC, the competence-based curriculum. Do you see these changes as an opportunity for Africa to redefine itself, or is a political opportunity?
Thank you very much for those. Of course, I know there can be many questions, but let me speak to those. I believe that education is very important. My good professor, when he had the opportunity to speak, referred us to the book that was written by Carter G. Woodson in 1933, Miseducation of the Negro. Education is at the heart of it. If you look at what is happening, for example, in the Scandinavian countries such as Finland, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, and specifically Finland, whose education system is now being touted as one of the best in the world. Look at countries such as South Korea, which we now know is one of the leading in the arena of innovation. Look at China, look at Japan, look at Singapore, look at Malaysia. What that demonstrates to us is that what we teach our young men and women is at the very heart of how their minds work. And my good sister, Dr. Rikana Chiombori has reiterated the fact that the mind is indeed the standard of who we are. What are we teaching? If we engage our young men and women in rote learning, then they cannot innovate. The world is now talking about innovation. And you go to any African country now, look at our transportation system. Uber, a young person sitting somewhere in San Francisco, now controls a taxi and a boda or Okada or a keke in Africa. And another one sitting in Lithuania. It means that those resources are going to their countries. Why? Education. You look at the area of biotechnology. Can Africa participate in those areas? And I hold the view, therefore, that if Africa wants to compete with the world, we must do something about our education system. We must make our young men and women people who are innovative and who are creative. Some of you young men and women, even the older ones who came to this part of the world with your undergraduate degrees, and you came into this environment, you must have been amazed at the dramatic change. How are you instructed? We are obsessed with examinations. This system is obsessed with the acquisition of knowledge and how that knowledge is going to change the quality of people's lives. I think that education is at the very heart of this, and until and unless African countries look at the education system in a very creative and programmatic manner, we are always going to be the underdogs. And I would have loved myself that education system should not be dealt with in a standalone manner. I remember being asked to speak at a conference in Nairobi where they were discussing the introduction of the competency-based education. And I asked the people who are responsible for curriculum development, where are the teachers in this thing? You cannot allow the teachers to be brought in at the tail end of the process, and you allow the bureaucrats to be the ones who are determining what is going to be taught. It is critical that those who are in the arena are the ones who are given the opportunity to participate in the process of dealing with curriculum. Number two, it is important that we look at our region. If Kenya has an education system that is not understood and appreciated in Tanzania, or in Uganda, or in Rwanda, or in Burundi, or in South Sudan, or in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and yet we are within the East African community, then how do you migrate labor? The beauty of Europe now is migration of labor. You have a student who is learning in Latvia who can move all the way to Portugal because under the Erasmus program, there is migration of labor and there is standardization of the knowledge that is being given to the young people. In the United States of America, it's the same. In Asia, if you go to countries such as China, you go to Cambodia, you go to Laos, you go to Vietnam, there is a sense in which STEM, science, technology, and all those things are being coordinated in a manner that is going to change lives in a manner that will then change, or rather, change attitudes in a manner that will change lives. Education is the game changer. Corruption. You know, there are people who hold the view that corruption is something that is propagated by poverty. In fact, the reverse is the case. It is spiritual poverty that gives birth to corruption. And the political leaders, I've just translated this book, which I'll share with some of you. It's called The Leader. This is the Swahili set book in Kenya called Kigogo, and I've just translated it into English. And it talks about the rot in many African countries. And corruption thrives because we tolerate it. Those of you who live in the United States of America know that if leadership is straight, largely, then things work. You live in a country where you are going to order an item through Amazon, if it is a book, or you order some item and it's delivered for you. You sign for some document and it will be delivered. But a number of African countries are led by men and women whose greatest claim to fame is that they are big thieves. And the tragedy of Africa is that we celebrate thieves. As long as you celebrate thieves and protect thieves, then theft becomes the national creed. And when greed and theft is your national creed, then you cannot grow. Look at some of the men and women who we elect as presidents or elect into office. You are going to campaign now, I do not know, because the fellows you are going to campaign against have stolen so much money that dollar for dollar you are not going to compete with them. So it's going to be a tall order. And if you look at the amount of money that Africa loses through corruption, it is in the billions. My good friend Dr. Bogonko talks about healthcare here and the amount of, if only one individual in Kenya or in many African countries, in the Democratic Republic of Congo or Nigeria or Senegal is capable of financing the entire health project of a country. So corruption is at the very heart of it. Our poor quality education is because of corruption. The collapse of our health system is because of corruption. The poor infrastructure is because of corruption. And until the day that you and me are bold enough to say it firmly and clearly to these thieves, whom we should not even call leaders, unless we use the word leader very loosely, then Africa is going to continue to punch below her weight. The beauty, of course, is that there are now a number of countries in Africa where thieves are beginning to be dealt with. A few weeks ago, Zambia buried one of the last of his generation, Kenneth David Kaunda. And Kenneth David Kaunda was the president of Zambia for 24 years. If you've read the book, Why Africa is Poor and What Africans Can Do About It by Greg Mills, when he left office after 24 years, he had only the equivalent of 8,000 United States dollars in his account and no other account in the world. The same with Julius Kambarage Nyerere. That was a crop of leaders, Samora Moises Machel, Thomas Isidore Sankara. These were leaders of a totally different kind. Today, if they were to come back and to contest for any election, they would lose in the morning. Because the electorate no longer responds to such individuals, the electorate has an inclination to thieves. And it is our duty as a people to ensure that we don't, and you must call them out. Sometimes when I'm speaking in different parts of Africa, or even to political leaders, I am inclined to be a good guest. Then a spirit comes into me and says, call it by its name. You will irritate them, but if we say it often enough, let me conclude answering that. Don't you see that one of the things that makes, particularly your children, when I know you pay homage, pilgrimage, as you may, to your Aboriginal homes every so often, and as we would have this conversation, when they stay with you for 1 week, they say they want to go back. Why? For many reasons. Because systems just don't work. Do they work because we don't have the resources? No, because somebody has stolen the money. Because somebody has stolen the money. Until the day that we deal with these thieves, Africa is going to continue to suffer. In countries where they deal with these thieves, in Rwanda they deal with the thieves. In Tanzania they deal with the thieves. In Botswana they deal with the thieves. In South Africa, when they try to deal with somebody who is accused of being a thief, you see what has happened? There were riots in the whole of South Africa, and it is now projected that the economy of South Africa will contract by 3%. People came out to say, he may be a thief, but he's our very own. So, it is sad, but the beauty is that you live in a country where there are thieves. I'm not suggesting for one moment that there are no thieves in the United States. They are there. But the thieves in Africa are born by a different mother and father. And their appetite is totally without any boundaries. They don't eat the eggs only. They eat the eggs plus the chicken rather. They go and try to look, these eggs that are inside, let us get them before they are laid. How can you deal with such people? In China, they kill them. I'm not one who is suggesting that people should be killed, but they should be dealt with, and firmly. So thank you very much, and God bless you.